welcome back to Mommy Meltdown on Giant TV. I'm Stephanie, your host. Do your kids feel like they're zombies? They're just obsessed with electronics? My kids certainly feel like that. I mean, we hear all the lingo, Fortnite and YouTube sensations and tablets and Google Maze. My mind goes nuts when I think of the amount of electronics my kids are on in the run of a day. But what do you do? Are they really as bad as what we are told they are? Well, we're going to talk about that today on the show, and here to help us way through the hectic topic that it can be is Jordan Shapiro, the author of The New Childhood, Raising Kids to Thrive in a Connected World. Thanks so much for joining us today via Skype, Jordan. My Skyping is brand new to me, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. And I'd actually like to start at the beginning. First of all, I really enjoyed the book.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I felt it was kind of like a manual for me, actually. As I was reading through it, I'm like, yes, excellent. I could use that in my everyday life. I like to start at the beginning because you are very much like many parents. You have two boys, and actually they were your inspiration for writing the book, correct?
That's correct. I have two kids. I have two boys, and they're 11 and 13 years old. And what really got me to write the book was watching them and recognizing that their childhood experience was so different than mine was, or than the one that's the most familiar to people my age or people who are older than me. That things have changed in so many ways, and wanting to understand that and wanting to make sense of that, and in order wanting to do what's best as a parent for them. In order to do that, I felt like I really needed to have a sense of what it meant that they were going to grow up in a totally different world than the one I grew up in.
So I feel like you're probably best equipped to answer this question then. Are video games and electronics really as bad as parents have been told that they are?
Well, I don't think they're I don't think they're as bad. Can they be bad? Absolutely.
Right.
Can they do bad things? Sure, but do they have to be bad? Are they intrinsically bad? I think it's like so many other things in our lives, right? Money. Is money good or bad? Well, you can have a bad relationship to it, or you can have a very healthy relationship to it. And so I think it really falls on parents to make sure that video games and that screens and that digital media, that we get what's best out of it rather than the worst side of what it is.
I really liked in the book that you took us chapter by chapter, I felt anyway, and whether this was your intention or not, but I really felt you took it step by step, really through the day-to-day activities that the kids do and how their digital life is incorporated in those. And, you talk a lot about screen time with kids. Is that something that has rules set in place at your home when it comes that's something that is new to us, like the involvement of screen time with my kids is fairly new, and so now I'm sort of thinking we need to set some rules in place when it comes to this. Is that something that you do in your own home?
In my own home, we don't. No, there are no clear rules. If you were to call my kids and say how much screen time are you allowed, I don't know that they'd know the answer. I certainly am monitoring it and putting. As a parent, that's your job, is to put limitations and boundaries. And,
Right.
But is there an official rule? Not really. And I think the reason for that is we use the term screen time. I tend to avoid the term screen time itself, mostly because I think it's left over from the TV era.
Right.
When screens were something you actually sat in front of, and it was just sort of passive consumption streaming into your eyeballs.
Yes.
And that's just not what screen time is anymore. That's not how we use screens. It's not how digital media works. Sometimes it's how it works, but it also can be very interactive, very social, very creative. And so first of all, when I think about the time that my kids spend engaged with electronic media, I'm a lot more concerned with what it is they're doing and whether or not the things they're doing are aligned with my values, right? Are they doing things that I think are good for them, that are teaching them the right lessons, and in that case, that's a good thing. But I'm also tend to, rather than say, hey, here's how much screen time you're allowed each day, I tend to talk but I like to keep things positive.
Yes.
So I tell them, there's things you're required to do. You're required to go outside. You're required to play with friends. You're required to read books.
Right.
You're right. If after you've done all the things I require of you to be a sort of well-rounded person, you can somehow fit in 8 hours of screen time a day,
Yeah.
That's fine with me. Although I don't think there's enough hours in the day to make that work. But if they can manage that, that's
Sometimes
fine. And I say it sort of jokingly, but like I want to empower them. And
yes.
so I think it's much more important for us to say, hey, here's the things I expect from you, and I want you to manage your time effectively so that you can do all those things,
right.
rather than to say, hey, here's the rules, I'm writing your schedule.
Right, and I kind of feel like that, like especially now where we have, different gadgets that restrict kids so much with screens. Everything gets shut off at a certain time, or you've surpassed the number of hours, and there's more people that I know that are buying these different gadgets so that there's a hard line on how much screen time that their kids are spending, how much time they're spending on whether it's video games or tablets or phones or what have you.
I think there's a mistake in that way of thinking, because I have one son who's very much into 3D printing, and so he'll spend hours building these 3D models of like things he wants to design, and this involves engineering and math and creativity and
right.
art, and I don't really want to cut that off. Like why would I say don't do all that for more than 2 hours a day?
Yes.
I get why we sometimes see them watching YouTube videos and feel like, hey, that's a sort of a waste of your time. Don't do it all day long.
Right.
But I think we really need to consider it. If I don't know whether you have a son or a daughter or
I have
both,
two sons. two sons addicted.
If they spent all day like creating electronic music, I don't think you'd be concerned at all.
Yeah,
so this
true.
idea that there's like a hard cutoff for no matter what they're doing, I think is problematic.
And it's interesting that so many of us really look at the internet, and like you say, YouTube videos, everything seems more, we look at it from a dark perspective. So I really appreciate, and I love that you look at it from a positive perspective, because I think it's easy to forget that there are so many educational things and creative things that you can find and use the internet for. I also love that you just mentioned it, that you can learn so much from the digital era, and some of those lessons that, our parents taught us, and that we, in turn are going to teach our kids about being, as you say, well-rounded people, and even, simple things like stranger danger and comfort, self-control, that you can, I guess, still learn those things with the assistance of digital media and social media.
Yeah. I mean, look, the thing about it is, there's a reason I think we all have smartphones. There's a reason we have PCs. There's a reason we've embraced this digital world. It's because we recognize all the benefits. Its ability to make our lives more convenient, for one. Its ability to connect us to people in faraway places. The fact that you and I can even have this conversation is only because of this amazing digital technology.
True.
I don't imagine that technology is going anywhere anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
I expect it's going to become more of a part of our lives. So what we really need to be asking ourselves is, how do we make sure that we teach our kids how to leverage all the positive aspects of this technology, and not to get seduced or harmed by the negative aspects. I'm certainly not pretending that it's all rosy and perfect.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people hear about my book and they think I'm arguing like, screen time is great. All kids should have screen time all the time.
Right.
We can get rid of everything old and just have screen time. I'm certainly not saying that. I mean, I think the book came out of the new, I wanted to write about the new childhood because I was really concerned. I saw that we were really starting to bring screens and digital media into our family lives and into our children's lives in a way that wasn't intentional and wasn't mindful and was just sort of, we think of it as this sort of evil temptation, and then we leave our kids alone in their bedrooms with it.
Right.
And that really, really, really concerned me.
Yes.
Right. I'm probably more concerned about the evils of technology than most people. I just don't think the way that you deal with that is by going, hey, I'm going to turn away from it, I'm going to ban it, I'm going to worry about it. I think the way we deal with that is we go, hey, as parents, we need to hold our kids' hands and teach them how to do this the right way. We need to hold our kids, one of the things I always think is, when my kids were really little, like 2, 3, 4, I would take them to the playground, and I would go on the jungle gym with them, and if they hit another kid, I said no hitting, and if they didn't share, I said you have to share, and if they called someone names, I said no, that's not nice. But then when it gets to digital technology, we tend to be like, all right, here's the playground, good luck.
Right, yes.
And then we complain that they don't do it well.
Yes.
Right? We never taught them how to do it well. We never taught them how to integrate this into their lives in a positive, well-rounded way, in a holistic way. And we need to do that. We need to do that as parents. And when I look at something like, let's use Twitter for an example, right, which is full of sometimes really horrible things, right? There's cyberbullying, there's trolling, I don't even know all the words, but there's sometimes it's a horrible place, social media. But the way you fix that is not by assuming that it intrinsically brings that about. You fix that by grown-ups teaching kids how to have the right etiquette, how to bring kindness and compassion, and demonstrating to them our expectations for what it means to be a good person in a digital world.
I love that. Now, we're talking about this, by the way. We have Jordan Shapiro with us today, author of the book, The New Childhood. Love the name of it. The New Childhood, Raising Kids to Thrive in a Connected World. I thoroughly enjoyed the book. You did lots of research on this. Where did you begin? Were you a little intimidated when you thought, okay, I love this idea. I really want to find out, how my kids and why my kids are so engaged with technology. How did you even begin to research this?
Well, I had been researching it for a while. It started out, I was interested in sort of how video games shape thinking, right? I don't know what the right word is. I don't know if shape is the right contour, maybe.
Okay.
How they contour thinking, and video games are a narrative tool, right? It's just like storytelling. It's just like fairy tales or mythology. They're not exactly the same as these things, but they still are a rhetorical tool. They work they spread a message. They have stories. They have things the experiences that your kids go through. And I was sort of curious to think about how they were making kids think. And I don't mean in the sort of sensational way we always hear about, where it's if they shoot in a video game, they're going to become school shooters. Right?
Yes.
It's not true. There's no evidence of. And then that's sort of absurd, right? Humans are not that simple, right? So I was more curious about but it probably is shaping their thinking. So let's start to understand the nuance of how it's shaping. I did a lot of work on that. And then I also started to discover that in a lot of work I do around early childhood development, that everybody says, pretty much conclusively across the entire educational community, psychological community, medical community, more play is a good thing. When kids play, they're learning.
Yeah.
When kids play, developing executive function, self-regulation, conflict resolution, all these social emotional skills that we now know are the foundation of all the other skills, right? Like if you don't have those skills, you're not going to have the academic skills later, right? We know this now, and we know that the best way to develop them is through play. And then I would read all these things that acted like digital play was bad play. And I was like, wait, how could it be that play is good except for when it's with these toys?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That made no sense to me. And what I discovered in researching the book, as I started to look at the history, is that actually what we think of as play, there's no such thing as neutral play, right? Play has changed throughout time so many times. And what I discovered was so many of the things that we now talk about as if they're these sort of essential, traditional aspects of childhood, like sandboxes, are a product of the 20th century, right? They were part of the industrial era, and they helped teach kids how to have the skills and the social emotional skills for an industrial economy and for a particular technological era, right? And that we're moving into a different kind of economy and a different kind of technological era. So the idea that we're trying to preserve something that was designed for the previous one seems sort of absurd.
Yeah, it really does.
What I wanted to do is say, hey, how can we embrace it? Mm-hmm. How can we take all the great things about the 20th century child rearing, get rid of the things that we don't really need because they're specific to context, but keep the good things, and then readjust those things that were specific to context to a new context. And that's the image I really wanted to present to people, is to go, hey, our job as and this is where if there's one conclusion I came to by the end of all the research, it was the job of grown-ups throughout time, no matter what time, whether it's ancient grown-ups, whether it's the Middle Ages, whether it's now, whether it's the future, is always to go, how do we take those things, our values, our principles, these sort of essential human knowledge, and constantly reinvent it so that it remains relevant even as the context changes, right? And if you look at history, if you look at like religious institutions, for example, what we can see very clearly, the ones that are able to go, hey, how do I maintain what really matters in this and adjust it so that it's still relevant as the world changes? Those are the ones that continue to shape people's consciousness. The ones that go, I'm not changing the world. World, no way. We have to keep the old rules no matter what.
Yeah.
So those ones that are lost. And you know what? There's a lot of values that my mother taught me, and that I assume her mother taught her, and my father taught me, and I assume his father taught him. There's a lot of values that I want to make sure get maintained, and I want to make sure my kids know how to apply them in a different technological context. And that's what I was trying to offer to parents with the new childhood. Is I wanted to say, hey, you have your values, you know what you care about, you know what matters to you in parenting. What you need to do is to figure out how to take it with you into the future. And I hope that I'm helping you look at it in a way that lets you do that.
Well, I definitely.
I don't know what the values are for everyone. I don't pretend that everyone's values are the same either. I just know we all have them, and we want to carry them forward.
So do you have any tips that, like kind of a quick tip, if you will, for parents on where they could start to embrace the digital age and acknowledge that, like you say, I mean, it's here to stay. So how can we make sure that our kids are getting the best that they can out of this?
I mean, the first tip is one, just embrace it, right?
Yeah.
And that means if you have really little kids, even the youngest kids, sit with your kids and play with them, right? Take out that tablet, find a game that you can play together and play it together, and you don't even have to think beyond that, because I guarantee you that when you play it, you are going to demonstrate the values that you care about, right? And they're going to see that, and they're going to imitate that. And then after maybe you play for 20 minutes, maybe you play some, Angry Birds or something for 20 minutes with a little kid, but maybe you're playing, maybe they're even younger, so you're playing an alphabet game or something, tablet, and just play it for 20 minutes with your kids. Sit there and go, oh, did you tap A? Good job, A for apple, right? Talk to the same way you would do it with a book. Do that for 20 minutes, and then stop. You've already started to create a model of, we don't play all day. We do for 20 minutes, and keep doing it, and get more and more sophisticated. Eventually, you can play video games with your kids. I played for a long time. Now my kids are better than me, and they don't want me to play with them. But probably it was until they were about 10 that I would still often play with them, and I would often sit down with them. Even if your kids are older now and you just want to, sometimes they say this and parents are like, I know, but I already have a 12-year-old. Is it too late? Did I already screw up? Yes, I'm sorry. No, just kidding.
Too late. You're done.
Too late. Sorry. I'm a little psychopath. No, I'm sorry. But even if you have a kid that's older and you don't know how to play and you don't like video games, sit down next to them and go, what are you playing? Can you explain this to me?
Yes.
How does it work? You don't have to play. You don't have to touch it. But ask them to explain to you. Say, why do you like it? What's good about it? You don't even have to agree with them. Sometimes people think, well, I don't like it. So tell them you don't like it. Yeah. Tell them why you don't like it. But make sure you do that in a way that's respectful and that shows them that you're taking an interest in what they care about.
Yes.
And already that gives you the opportunity to start to model a critical, mature way of interacting with the devices. That's the biggest problem we have, is that our kids don't have a good model of what it looks like to be a mature digital citizen, and they need that. And most of what they're seeing on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram is actually the opposite of what I think a mature digital citizen should look like. You should not be making duck lips and being half naked, taking selfies in the mirror. This is not what a mature person does. But if you take pictures of, hey, here's a picture of me speaking to the Parent-Teacher Association, and here are the things I really care about deeply, and here's the things that here's the things that shape my thinking in the world. That's modeling really a thoughtful engagement, and wow, what an amazing use of the tools.
And I love that no judgment, because I think that a lot of parents of, like you say, 11, 12 and tweens, or teens, young teens, they feel that a certain way. Parents feel a certain way, and then the younger kids are like, no, I don't feel that same way about computer games. So they do feel there's that judgment there. And I can tell you that I play video games with my kids, and they laugh at me. They think it's hilarious because I have no idea what I'm doing. And, so it becomes kind of very comical, which is in itself a nice bonding time as well.
I do want to just just to clarify, well, I mean, I think you understood what I meant by no judgment. I'm okay with judgment as long as it's respectful judgment.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like I think it's good for parents. Often parents are always telling their kids they like everything their kids do. I don't think that's necessarily a good, I'm the kind of parent who my kid brings me a bad drawing and I go, really? That's the best you can do, right? Right? Like, I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't think that's bad.
It's a bad thing if they bring it to me and I go, you're a terrible person. I hate you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Different kind of judgment.
Right. To honestly share my judgments in a way that's thoughtful, and the same way I would judge if you and I went to a movie and we want to have a conversation and you love it and I hate it. We have a respectful conversation. That's what I want to demonstrate for my kids, because I want to create that voice in their head of the smart, critical person on their shoulder who goes, well, wait a second, why would I like this game? Maybe this game is stupid. And I want them to have that internal debate with my voice in their head forever. Right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, because that's what we're doing.
I have my parents' voice in my head. I walk down the street and I have them in my head going, why are you thinking that way?
Not
why
a good idea. Yeah, right?
That's what I want with my kids to have.
We have Jordan Shapiro with us today. He is the author of The New Childhood, Raising Kids to Thrive in a Connected World. I want to touch on one final thing before we wrap things up today, and that is your chapter on the new puberty. And I'll tell you why I liked it, because you actually talk about something that has been a source of discussion in my home for the last couple of months now. I have an 11-year-old who's been begging me for a phone. And my thought is, no. Why do you need a phone? Who are you going to call? And you actually touch on a little bit on that in The New Puberty. Can you expand on that? What are your thoughts about kids with phones?
Well, first I'll tell you the story of my own son, and it was actually my older son, not my younger son, that this happened with, because I had already changed my perspective by then. But my older son, he really wanted a phone and begged like so many kids do, and I said no. I was like, no, phones are, it's expensive, it's inappropriate, and he decided, okay, I'm going to get an iPod Touch. They don't even have iPod Touch anymore, but then they did, and he wanted one, and he asked all his aunts and his uncles and his friends for his birthday and for all the holidays. He said, get me a gift card to the Apple Store, and as soon as he got that gift card, he bought a refurbished iPod Touch, or at least he thinks he bought it by himself.
Right.
The saving lesson also. But he saved it up. He got it, and the second he got it, I actually regretted not letting him get a phone. And the reason was because I realized I had given him access to do just about everything except call me in an emergency.
Yes.
Which makes no sense, and it was left over from my mother, who thought you don't get a phone until you're older, which makes sense when it was a flip phone.
Yes.
Right? But I'm not sure it makes sense when they already have access to everything else on it. But I think there's a second part to it that I realized even later, which is there are so many things we're afraid of on the phone. We're afraid of Instagram. We're afraid of social media. We're afraid of what they're going to be able to do with the phone, and we want to make sure that we protect them from that. The average American kid gets a phone when they're around 12 or 13. That's what most of the studies say right now.
Right.
I think this is a mistake, and I think it's a mistake to wait that long, because I now have a 13-year-old, and I'm understanding what people say about the teenagers.
Yes.
Right when they become teenagers is when they are prone to risky behaviors. It's when their hormones are raging. It's when everything dad says is wrong.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't believe anything that comes out of my mouth. They don't want to listen. If I say behave, they think that means do the opposite. And that seems like a terrible time to hand them a powerful device. I wish I could hand it to them when they were 7. When they were 7, what they wanted to do is everything daddy says is great. Daddy is right. Daddy is good.
Yeah.
I want to be. How can I make more friends and be nice to people? That's all they wanted to do. Now they do a lot of bad things, and I don't want them. And I think we're totally misguided, thinking teenage years are the right time to introduce kids before we've taught them any of the appropriate behaviors with which to use this technology. And I think that's part of why we end up. You end up with bullying at school at that age too. Usually, hopefully we've taught kids how not to have those behaviors by the time they become teenagers. I hope that by the time my kid's going to parties, I've already taught him the right attitude around things like sex and alcohol and drugs and responsibility. I hope that I can trust him at that point. But it's weird. We hand them the phones before we've spent any time talking to them about how to demonstrate trustworthy behaviors. I think that's a mistake. I think 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds, while they're not prepared to keep track of a device and to take care of a device, so you may have to do it as the parents, hold it and give it to them at certain times.
Right.
I think that it's a great time to start to encourage good habits and encourage good behavior. So I encourage you to get one. Maybe get one for your son. I'm not sure it should be unlimited access all the time.
Yeah.
But
can you hear that, Jordan? Can you hear that? He's actually cheering. He's cheering in the.
My 11-year-old has a phone, and the truth is he's pretty responsible with it. There are lots of times when I have to say things like, put it away, and I'm not going to pretend it's perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, it's all the time I have to issue corrections. But as parents, that's what we do. Anyone who thinks parenting is supposed to be easy, and there's kids are, I often see my kids, and they're like, we're trying to behave, and then I'll tease them. I go, oh, don't be one of those well-behaved kids. They're boring, right?
It's so true.
Teach them all the lessons with the hope that they become good adults. Do not expect them to be perfect kids.
Right off the bat, yeah.
Perfect kids, then they wouldn't need parents.
That's very true. I love that point. That's excellent. I think we can wrap up on that. And I think really the thing that we take away from today is to keep an open mind and explore, I guess we can say, this new age of parenting. Any final thoughts on the subject, Jordan?
No, it's just I hope people enjoy reading The New Childhood, and if they want to reach out to me, they can always find me at www.thenewchildhood.com or on Twitter at Jordosh, Jordosh.
And where can we find the book, The New Childhood?
The book is available pretty much anywhere. I'm sure you're a local bookseller.
Yes.
It's always good to support local businesses, but it's also available at all the big booksellers too.
All right, Jordan, thank you again so much for joining me today on Mommy Meltdown. Much appreciated. And remember, you can freak out, you just can't stress out because you had a Mommy Meltdown. Until next time.